Have you ever really stopped to think about what AI is made of? For years, the answer seemed so obvious. Data. Just tons of it. But what if that was the wrong way to look at it? In this explainer, we're going to dig into this huge shift in thinking that happened right around 2025, a moment that changed data from just fuel into the actual blueprint of our entire intelligent world.
Just let that quote sink in for a second. It really captures this revolution in how we see AI. The old way, data was just a commodity, right? Something you mine, you process, you burn. But this new way of thinking sees it as our collective legacy. It's like digital amber, perfectly preserving the very best of human thought and logic for the future.
So the big question is, how did we get here? How did this massive change happen? Well, it definitely wasn't overnight. It was a journey, really. A journey away from a philosophy of just brute force and towards something a lot more elegant. To really get it, we need to rewind the clock a bit. Okay, so to understand where we ended up, we have to start with where we began, the early days of large language models. Back then, the philosophy was so simple, maybe even a little naive looking back. It all came down to one thing: data as fuel. This whole period was defined by what we now call scale worship. The belief, the absolute gospel, was just bigger is better. Bigger models, more parameters, and yeah, most importantly, more data. The idea was that if you could just pour the entire internet into a machine, well, real intelligence would just kind of pop out the other side. It was a pure numbers game. And this, right here, this really lays out the huge gap in thinking. The old belief was that quantity was king, that more bytes would just automatically lead to more brain power. Data was seen as a raw material, like coal for a furnace. The more you shoveled in, the hotter the fire would burn. But as we were all about to find out, that just wasn't the whole story. And that brings us to the big turning point, because we hit a wall, a big one. We realized that just making the pile of data bigger and bigger wasn't working anymore. We needed a new concept, a new way of measuring things. And that concept changed everything: knowledge density. So, what on earth is knowledge density? Well, it's a measure of substance, not size. It's all about finding the most potent, the most logically sound and coherent information that you can extract from a data set. Think of it like this. It's the difference between a gallon of sugary water and one single concentrated drop of life-saving medicine. One has volume, sure, but the other has real impact. This was the crucial realization. We'd hit a ceiling, and we finally understood that an AI's intelligence wasn't defined by how much data it could swallow. No, it was defined by the quality of the thinking within that data. This was the exact moment we pivoted from more is better to better is better. Now, this whole shift in thinking, it wasn't just some abstract idea people talked about. It had real, tangible consequences for the tech itself. The very structure, the very form of data began to evolve. This evolution basically happened in three key stages. First, you had these static warehouses, just enormous offline files that you'd use to train a model once, and then you'd kind of set it aside. Then we got a bit smarter, and we decoupled the model's core programming from its knowledge base. But the real leap, the game changer, was creating dynamic protocols. This is what transformed data from a dead file into a living, breathing network of information. And think about what that means. Instead of a super long, difficult training process for every new model, a future AGI could just plug into this global knowledge network, like you'd plug a lamp into a wall socket. It gets instant, real-time access to a constantly updated, verified source of truth. It's incredible. Of course, this tech shift also completely changed the human side of the equation. People working with data were no longer just fuel suppliers, shoveling raw data into the machine. They became knowledge architects, designing the very structure of this network, and logical judges, whose job was to verify the truth of the information flowing through it. It was a move from manual labor to high-level, careful curation. Now, this whole evolution wasn't just happening for its own sake. It wasn't just about cool tech. It was actually driven by a looming crisis, and it was aimed at a very grand, very human vision for what the future of intelligence should look like. Two huge challenges basically forced our hand. First, we slammed into the data wall. We were literally running out of high-quality, human-generated text to train our models on. And at the exact same time, we were facing a flood, a tidal wave of synthetic AI-generated data. This was a huge problem because it threatened to pollute the entire information ecosystem. You'd have AIs just learning from other AIs, which leads to this weird digital inbreeding.
So, in response to that crisis, the mission became something way bigger than just building smarter AI. It became about preservation. The goal was to build a digital defense tower, something that could protect the core logic, the truth, and even the beauty of human thought from getting washed away in a sea of digital noise.
And the ultimate vision, the final form of that defense tower, is a knowledge bank. A secure, totally transparent, and completely verifiable repository of human wisdom. It's a place where any emerging AGI can go to draw upon a trusted source of truth, making sure that its development is grounded in the very best of what humanity actually knows. This just completely elevates the entire field. I mean, what was once seen as the janitorial work of data prep is now one of the most critical tasks of our time. It's nothing less than creating the storage device, the hard drive, if you will, for the foundational logic of our entire civilization.
And a job like that, well, it comes with an immense responsibility. The core facts, the logical principles that everything is built on, we call those truth anchors. The new mandate, the new mission, is to guard these anchors with reverence, because they are the only thing that will keep future intelligence grounded in our reality.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial thought. If we are truly building the permanent archive of human logic, the bank for our civilization's collective wisdom, then the most important question we have to ask ourselves is this. What logic, what wisdom, and what values are we choosing to put in it? The choice ultimately is ours.